Where the is Sam?
We don't know where he is. Help us figure out where Sam is.
If you happen to see Sam walking around, take a picture and post it in the comments so that we can find him.
Good evening, Mr. Carrico. First, I want to thank you for a lifetime of devoted and unrelenting service to movie reviews. Were it not for the dedication of you and your team, the online movie review space would have been a very different place. Every movie you reviewed, every guest you brought on, every personal sacrifice you've made has helped film fans the world over know which movies to see and which to wait until the Monday after opening weekend to still go see to teach those studios a lesson. It's been 10 years since your first review changed the internet and the Film Fanclub was born. And though you sometimes liked a Marvel movie,
It was fine.
you never let film fans down.
If you're going to the movie theater, maybe watch a different movie other than Ant-Man and the Wasp.
Yeah.
You were always an entirely objective movie reviewer
And me, because I want the ending.
when others were trying to cozy up to the studios. We need you to be that man now. In the months since you went on hiatus,
I'm on hiatus.
the Film Fanclub has been left in the hands of lesser reviewers.
And I would guest host this podcast, YouTube show thing.
Monologue skipped.
We should do the whole review is us going through this and using this as breakoff points so that there's not actually a single monologue.
Positive reviews of Marvel. 4-hour episodes about a TV show with no title cards. And with Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning coming out, we need objective reviews again. Agent Carrico, your mission, should you choose to accept it, is to assemble your team in Dallas, see Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning, and review it by whatever means necessary. This message will self-destruct in 5 seconds. Good luck, Mr. Carrico.
Oh, hey, Sam texted me. What is
Oh,
this?
yeah? Huh. Let me see.
Hi, everyone. On May 22nd, I'm coming to the great state of Texas to see you at some of the first screenings of Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning. Then we're going to fly to Dallas, where I'm going to get some delicious barbecue before going to more theaters to say hello, and I can't wait.
Tom Cruise is
See you
going
at
to
the
come see the movie with us, dude.
So again, welcome to the Film Fan Club. Again, Sam Carrico is not here. He's gone missing, but we think we figured it out.
That's
He messaged us recently. He's got Tom Cruise to come on the show. We were supposed to see the movie with him last night, but we ended up getting tickets to the later one. So, understand, long flight from San Antonio. So, we missed him there. He must have got some rest, got some beauty sleep. So we got up early this morning. We went to the theater again. Must have just missed him again. Apparently he was there. But, we didn't get to see him. But that's okay, because he's coming to the show. But we're running short on time, so we're going to go ahead and get into the review. I want to thank John for being on the show again with me. And we want to thank Sam for letting us continue to do this. He did have some feedback at different times recently, so we're trying to really button it up now, which is why we're, waiting for our guest to get here. But, we got to keep going. We got to keep going. So, again, reviewing Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning. Movie 8, Tom Cruise is back. Benji is back. Simon Pegg, Unkar Plot. We got Pom Cruise here back yet again. It's exciting times where, we were looking forward to it for a while. When Dead Reckoning Part 1 came out, we rewatched all of them. You can check them out on the Mission Matinee, part of the Film Fanclub network of podcasts. And so we're excited again. John, what were your thoughts leading up to movie 8?
We watched the trailer and did a trailer live react. That's pretty awesome. You can go check that out on Film Fan Club also. That kind of sums up our expectations, but I can restate them here, I suppose, if you don't want to go back and watch that.
Just give us a refresher.
I was pretty psyched.
Flashback to the trailer.
Yes.
Oh, that guy.
Nice. I was pretty psyched. We talked about all the other Mission Impossibles leading up to Dead Reckoning, and whenever I spend a bunch of time talking about a movie in depth, my appreciation for it goes up, even if I maybe didn't love it the first time. So we watched 3, and when we first started talking about 3 in Mission Matinee, I was like, 3's not great. And then the more I talked about it and rewatched it, the more I was like, oh yeah, it's pretty awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And so going into Final Reckoning, I was like, oh, this is going to be awesome. This is going to be sick. I'm hyped. Plus, Tom Cruise is going to be there and watch it with us.
I know that just the excitement through the roof. But yeah, so again, over the past few months, went ahead and rewatched all of them again. Love number 1, 2 with the headcanon. John Woo does it again. 3, a lot of fun. Again with the headcanon, elevating it. Check out the Mission Matinee podcast. But it's we all understand it's a Bush allegory. 4 was, I think, one of my lower ranked ones last time we watched all the movies and ranked them. But still, a lot of fun, a good time. Team versus Chaos. Rogue Nation comes in, and it's just, McHugh's taken over. The franchise is on another level. The opera scene, the stealing the plans, the chase at the end, how he outwits Lein, incredible. And then Fallout, obviously, my favorite still. When we saw 7, just an adrenaline ride the whole time. Henry Cavill's incredible. The action in that movie is top tier. It's just so much fun. All the chases, the chase through Paris, the heist breaking Lein out to lead into like 2 different car chases is just so much fun. And then Dead Reckoning Part 1, we all loved. I think you even put it as your favorite of the franchise.
I did. It was my favorite of the movie, and I predicted that this next one, Dead Reckoning Part 2, that became Final Reckoning, would be better.
Nice. I feel like you're teasing at something, but we'll get there. But yeah, so now I guess, a few years later, how does Dead Reckoning Part 1 hold up for you? I know we rewatched it together. I feel like we had a good time. But yeah, thoughts on Dead Reckoning Part 1 after giving it some more time to marinate?
Dead Reckoning Part 1 is really awesome. Having watched it once and then watched it, I think, a couple times since the last time we watched it, it's really awesome. Everything about it's sick. I like all the build-up. I like all the stuff that they're teasing they're going to do in the next one. I like all of the, in deeper look into Ethan's past that is hinted at. I was really enjoyed it and was hyped for Final Reckoning.
Yeah, no, same. Dead Reckoning Part 1, a whole lot of fun. Again, similar sort of an elevated car chase, as our fearless leader pointed out last time. It's like they listened to his review of 6. They made more when they were running around the streets of Rome, which is super exciting and a lot of fun. Some Buster Keaton-esque comedy with the little car going down the steps. And then, the train sequence at the end, just incredible. So much fun. The different levels, layers, the train car going up and down, climbing through the kitchen one. It just super exciting. We were all very hyped to go into the part 2 of this. And then, behind the scenes, there was the writer's strike delayed the movie. And then, so it got pushed back, but then, we got the trailer finally, got another trailer. And in these trailers, we did see that it seems like they're referencing all the films. We're going back, we're digging through all of the pre-McHugh movies, essentially. And then, I guess, we can jump now into the Final Reckoning. I guess, brief non-spoilers before we really dive into it. What do you think? How do you think it, did it live up to your expectations? Oops, sorry.
So I would say that, we've only seen it twice now since it came out, and we only watched it yesterday and today. And so my brain hasn't had a really long time to process and percolate on all of the stuff in it. I think the first time I watched it, I was like, a little more disappointed than I was expecting. But then the second time I watched it, I developed head canons that make it awesome.
And we're going to fire those cannons and see what sticks. But yeah, I agree. The first time walking out, I was disappointed. The stunts are still incredible. I think the story still moves really well for a nearly 3-hour movie. There was never any huge moments where I felt like I was checking my watch or anything like that. It's still paced well. It's kinetic. It's just pieces that bumped against. And I think we'll get into those as we talk through the movie and, wondering, studio meddling, needing to rewrite how much was part of the original plan. Is there, should we have been wanting Dead Reckoning Part 2? I know when we reviewed the trailer, we were like, you should just called it Dead Reckoning, The Final Reckoning. Were we wrong to think that? We'll have to ask our boss later. But
or are we just wrong now, maybe?
Maybe we're wrong now. Maybe no one's ever right.
That's true.
And it's the friends we made along the way and the team and the choice.
Is Tom Cruise calling us?
Do you want to see if Tom Cruise
Yeah, let's
in?
see if Tom Cruise is calling us. Maybe
right,
Tom Cruise has an opinion about
All right, let's check. Let's see if Tom's calling to let us know he's going to be here.
We do have a caller.
Oh,
right.
Thank you, Spider. Thank you. Can you
Spider.
patch that through to us, please?
Hi, big fan from Tulsa.
Hi.
It's not Tom Cruise.
Yeah, he might. Yeah, I guess that's not Tom.
No,
Are
I
you
saw
from Tulsa?
I saw the phone number, and I wanted to call in and just say I'm a really big fan of the show, particularly the first 4 seasons with the previous host.
Oh,
cool.
What you got? Some complaints or problems or something?
Well, I just noticed the monologues have really kind of gone off the rails. I mean, John, it seemed like you didn't even really read the first monologue that he gave you. It was a really good one about Captain America, and then you didn't even do a monologue for the Thunderbolts episode. And speaking of which, the Thunderbolts episode, we are giving positive reviews to Marvel movies now, which is kind of, I didn't know the show was about that, really.
See, I was under the impression that multiple callers were going to have individual critiques and not just shoot through a list of.
I'm a big fan of the show. I've been watching for a long time.
He's got notes, John. He's got
true.
notes.
All right. So Tulsa.
Have you seen The Final Reckoning? Have you gone to see it? Oh yeah,
I've actually seen it twice as well.
Oh wow, what'd you think? What were your thoughts?
I think it was very disappointing. I was a big fan of I've also watched all the previous Mission Impossible movies, and
nice.
I was a big
Have you
fan
checked out our Mission Matinee series? It's part of the Film Fanclub network of podcasts.
Big fan of the Film Fanclub network of podcasts. The guy that organized all that just did a fantastic job. Big fan of those, particularly Part 3. I think he's right. Sam is right on the money whenever he says Part 3 is the best one, and this movie kind of made Part 3 worse. So for that, I give it a negative review.
Dang.
What made it worse?
Well, if we want to start getting to the spoilers, J.J. Abrams' mystery box formula is utilized in the best way possible in Part 3, and they take away the mystery from the mystery box. I mean,
but how do you know it's real?
Okay. So for those calling in live / watching at home / however you're consuming this, in The Final Reckoning, we'll just jump in. Yeah. So we're gonna, overall kind of mid, but maybe it'll percolate, maybe we'll marinate, maybe we'll feel differently in a few weeks. Maybe there'll be more Mission Matinees where we come back with some headcanon and talk about what we actually, the newfound opinions we have. But for now, kind of disappointing. Still fun. I think worth seeing in the IMAX. The stunts are incredible. There's a whole sequence of, stealing the entity from the Sevastopol that's in a submarine underwater. It's incredibly tense. It's incredibly well shot. Super fun. And then, at the end, you saw in the trailer, the biplane sequence, just incredible. Some of the connective tissue, I think, is where we have problems. But I would go see it in the IMAX again, probably. It's a fun time. But yeah, so we jump back in, we get an opening bit where the entity is talking to us using a bunch of different voices of different characters throughout the franchise. We're really, bringing it back in that either this thing or this movie is about all of them, and then sort of zeroing back in when Ethan gets the briefing on a VHS tape from the president, that this is about Ethan, his choices, his past, his whole thing. And then we get him joining up back with Luther and Benji. Luther's been underground in London, hiding in the catacombs, working himself to death, making a poison pill for the entity that they have to plug into the thing from the Sevastopol.
It's going to take everything I have.
Going to take everything I've got.
Yeah. They set it up just barely in Dead Reckoning Part 1.
It was
but
there,
he's there.
though.
Yeah, it was there. It was the tip of the cap, too. We're going to kill him, probably. John, you can go back and watch. John was correct about that one. And then it's part of this whole beginning I didn't like very much because it's like very jumbled. Ethan seems on the back foot. It's like cut together very quickly. The old characters are returning at a rate that's kind of like confusing. Like Grace went with Kittredge last time, and now she's just back. She's, pickpocketing guns and walkie-talkies off secret agents to help Ethan, who Ethan has been at so many places with so many, like in the last movie, he was dodging the little CIA guys most of the time. And here he just like turns around and walks into two like low-level, walkie-talkie dudes. And he's like, oh, how do you know it's really me? It's kind of funny in the world of the entity, but at the same time, didn't feel like the Ethan I know and love. And then, so they take those guys out. And then they get immediately taken out by Gabriel's men, which I guess cool that Ethan takes like 4 tranq darts to knock out. He's so used to them, at this point. And then they are captured, and we don't have like a clever. Well, I mean, it is kind of clever, but it's we've set up these beats, and I guess some of it is him trying to sell this thing to Gabriel by not letting Grace in on the fact that he has a plan to get out of this, so you could buy it. But it just all felt a little quick, a little rushed, a little like it might have been added to the movie later on in the stages of production. And then we get to the needle drop in a way that also might be one of the weakest of the franchise. I don't know. I'd have to go back and watch like some of the other ones, because like 4, he says light the fuse. I don't remember exactly how we get there in 5. 6 is my favorite.
What's done is done. When we say it's done.
It's so good. 7 is up there with like, all of the buildup. We get the other one.
Of course.
3 is pretty good.
No.
That because it's intense. Like, we get it's like the bad guy winning, and then we're like, oh, what are we gonna do? 1 is great. And then I forget, does 2 start after he gets the glasses, or is it? Yeah,
he throws the glasses at the camera, and then it explodes.
That one's rad as hell. Yeah, I couldn't remember if the glasses just explode. I was like, does it happen after Ambrose blows up a plane, or is it? Yeah,
because we cut from the plane crashing into a mountain to Ethan climbing on the mountain, and then he gets the sunglasses delivered through a rocket, and then he throws the sunglasses at the camera, and then they explode.
A near perfect movie, and we get the Limp Bizkit cover, which is adorable, and I love it to death. But yeah, so essentially, to get back to what the caller was talking about with 3 and getting into spoilers, the rabbit's foot is a big deal in this one. The rabbit's foot in 3 was a J.J. Abrams mystery box that was being sold by Davian for crazy amounts of money. And Benji tells a story that his professor told him in college that, whenever I see something that's really expensive, I assume it's the anti-god.
I used to have this professor at Oxford, Dr. Wickham. He taught biomolecular kinetics and cellular dynamics. And he used to sort of scare the underclassmen with this story about how the world would eventually be eviscerated by technology. You see, it was inevitable that a compound would be created, which he referred to as the anti-god. It was like an accelerated mutator, a sort of, like an unstoppable force of destructive power that would just lay waste to everything, to buildings and parks and streets and children and ice cream parlors, So whenever I see like a rogue organization willing to spend this amount of money on a mystery tech, I always assume it's the anti-god. End of the world kind of stuff,
It was never a name used by anyone else in the movie to describe the thing. And then now the name of the rabbit's foot, the other name, is the anti-god, just like as a thing, as normal. So that was disappointing.
I mean, it's probably how Ethan thought of it.
Right.
Like, we gotta get the rabbit's foot, but Ethan had it in his head.
If we get
that it
into
was
this
like
movie is somehow the AI reading Ethan's mind, then it makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
But for Gabriel to say it had another name and it's, the anti-god, it's like that felt silly to me.
But no, I don't have any idea what it is. I was just speculating.
Because it was never referred to as anything else. It was just
they got to get a lot of information into like 10 minutes so that we can watch the 8th Mission Impossible movie without having to beat for beat go over every Mission Impossible movie that's relevant.
Or maybe it's not a code word, maybe it's just a really, really expensive bunny appendage.
Yeah, I'm just saying.
Mission Impossible 8.
But this is why we're talking about the rabbit's foot, because the caller brought it up. We were making sure everyone has a context in case they haven't seen the movie yet.
I'm aware of why we were doing it.
But yeah, so John, what do you think of the rabbit's foot and it being in this movie? Since you want to talk about it now, and you're done with me explaining.
Okay, hang on. I got a question. How do we want to do this? Should I talk about it as if it's just like talk about it without the context of my headcanons, and then at the end of the movie we'll talk about my headcanons?
Yeah, talk about it as the context of the movie.
The context of the movie includes the context of my headcanons. There's evidence for my headcanons, man. It's not just out of nowhere. It's mostly out of nowhere.
We're talking about the movie first. You started this episode by saying, I've only seen it twice, only recently. I haven't percolated enough, but I'm now going to defend a ridiculous thing with a headcanon that I stole from and Alex and then claimed as my own 20 minutes before we started recording.
Refined from kernels that you developed. Also, wasn't there with us.
That's true.
All right, anyway, what was the question?
I don't know. No, what do you think of the rabbit's foot being back in this movie?
Oh,
and it being a real thing.
It's kind of a bummer, without context of headcanons. It's a bit of a bummer, and it kind of takes away from what I actually ended up liking about 3. Our headcanon, again, it's a headcanon in 3.
Right.
Our headcanon in 3 is that the anti-God particle, the rabbit's foot, is nothing. It's just like a red herring that the United States government or the Chinese government potentially are just using as a impetus to get America to do shit. And that makes it very interesting. It makes it a commentary about Bush and Iraq and that kind of stuff, right? Without that headcanon, 3 is because then it's just a plot hole that nobody thought about. But then this movie goes, oh, actually, the rabbit's foot was the original source code of the entity. And you breaking it out of the Chinese lab, giving it to the Americans, allowed the Americans to then use it against the Russian Navy, which then allowed it to co-opt the AI, the stealth AI that the Russian submarine had in 2012, which then turned it into the sentient entity that is now the problem that we're dealing with now, right?
Yeah, roughly. I mean, some of that we'll need to go back and watch and try to piece together the actual timeline because, again, it's been, we watched Dead Reckoning Part 1 not that long ago, but also don't think anywhere in that movie was it mentioned that's the events that we saw at the beginning of the film with the Sevastopol were taking place in 2012, and then now this movie hits that back on. So, not 100% sure if that was set up. It felt when watching Dead Reckoning Part 1 that was a relatively recent event, maybe a year or two ago, at the most, but not 2012.
Yeah,
that felt a bit jarring when watching the Final Reckoning. But I agree. I think obviously our headcanon helped elevate Mission Impossible 3 from being one that's kind of dumb where Ethan isn't a steps ahead to being oh, okay, he's been out of the game, he's lost his step, and we're doing this fun commentary on Bush and the Iraq War. But it does, at least still in my mind, work better with the rabbit's foot being nothing, just continuing to be a mystery box. And then, so bringing it back and it being the primordial ooze of the source code for
the primordial digital ooze.
Yeah, digital ooze was a little bit weird. When seeing it in some of the trailers, I had thought, oh, we're going to have to try to steal this thing so it can be the thing that can help us kill the entity. And I was hoping it would still be a red herring. It would still be a mystery box. I think that would have been a lot of fun. So, there is some disappointment of we've got a part 1. We know we're going to be speculating about part 2. And, I at least prefer the ideas we speculated a few years ago more because, we came up with them.
Right. There are ideas.
Yeah, exactly.
So there's a bias there that we have to keep in
the back of our mind and try to parse. But all that being said, that is sort of a symptom, and we'll check in with the callers after this. I feel like this one where there's just little moments where things feel off. They don't feel in step with Ethan. Things are either happening fast or we get sort of weird moments of expository dialogue that why is it happening this way exactly? You know, some characters moved out, like noticing ADR and other things like that. Like it's sort of, like a lot of the set pieces feel very cool. Like they took their time, they cared about them. Then there's some other ones that feel like, oh, we just need to do a thing to, you know, move this along real fast. And it feels sort of like quickly pushed in there. Like some of the fights, I don't think there was a single fight that felt as cool as the bathroom fight in 6 or the sword fight in 7 with Ilsa and Gabriel. Like nothing felt that well choreographed or like that, like cared for in these fights. Like there's some cool fights, you know, we're still doing fun stuff, but nothing that felt as elevated, I guess. So, you know.
They do this thing across the whole Final Reckoning where it's like there are multiple fights happening at the same time, and we intercut back and forth between them as like match cut. Like Ethan will throw somebody over his shoulder, and then we'll cut to somebody in the other fight getting thrown over like a table or something. So that movement carries through, even though the two fights are happening in different places.
Right.
So there's an element there of like, none of the fights are individually choreographed in as interesting or like cohesive a way, but then to have it be like 4 people are fighting in different places at the same time and they're all kind of pursuing the same objective, even though they're not in the same place on the globe, is interesting and weird. It's like a different dynamic, but
some of it was good because it would show that like both of these groups of people, because it was like a big moment where both teams have to meet up in the same place at the same time. And like they're both trying to help each other get the information to get there. We have Ethan who's gotten onto the sub. We'll cover how we get there. And we have the rest of the team who's gone to the radar tower in Alaska. They'll get their clothes mailed later. But so they're both trying to work together to get this bit of information of the exact spot where the Sevastopol crashed. And so like it does work in the sense that like Ethan's fighting a guy on the sub, the team are fighting Russians up there. I have learned, Sam reprimanded me last time.
That's right. You've grown as a person.
Yeah.
That's right.
But so like it is cool cutting them together, but they don't, like it doesn't feel like we spent as much time choreographing these fights as we did in other movies. You know, like most of the time to shoot a fight, it takes like weeks, months, you know. These felt like they were done relatively quickly, even though they are, you know, sort of going back and forth, but not, I don't know, not as, like I said, cared for, I suppose.
Yeah. And they definitely weren't as like personally intense either. Like Dead Reckoning has that hallway fight between Pom and Tom and the Goon that has that element of like the narrow hallway that makes it really interesting. You know, in 2, you got Ambrose fighting Ethan on the beach. In Fallout, you have that end fight between his name? Walker and
Lark.
Ethan. That's really like personal.
Yeah, and Solomon Lane and Benji and Ilsa, also very personal and like elevated. Where it's like, yeah, we were missing a lot of that sort of, we're fighting a villain that we've established has a connection with our characters. You know, like not even the entity in this one didn't feel like it had as much of a connection with Ethan. Like I felt a connection more between Ethan and the entity in Dead Reckoning Part 1 than in the Final Reckoning. You know, now it's just this big existential thing as opposed to, you know, this weird sort of like AI version of Ethan, which it was in Dead Reckoning Part 1. But we talked about a lot. It sounds like we have another caller. Do you want to go to the phones again? You got kind of hostile with the last one, so maybe.
Well, the last caller from Tulsa started critiquing my monologues.
Yeah, that's okay.
I put a lot of work into not doing those
listen
monologues.
to the full thing before predicting everything they're going to say. So, yeah.
Spider, we got another caller, Spider?
We got plenty.
Nice. Oh, yeah.
Hi, for calling from Tulsa. Hello.
Hi.
Is this Tom?
Welcome to the show. Is this Tom?
No, I just had a couple more thoughts about the direction of the show so far. I noticed you guys did a 4.5-hour long episode about a show that nobody's seen. What's up with that?
I'm pretty sure a
Severance
bunch of
is
people have
incredible,
seen
and a
Severance.
bunch of people have seen it. The people who made The Final Reckoning have seen Severance. 2 of the actors from that show were in the movie.
So like 4.5 hours. You could have made like 3 bonus podcasts out of that.
I suppose.
That's true. We could have released it in a more like content engagement
you know,
kind of way.
with Sam having gone Roscoe protocol, I was left up to my own devices to figure out what kind of thing. So Sam is a big fan of this YouTube channel, And so it felt like a good time to try to do an ode to their 12+ hour episodes where they talk about nothing for so long. And so, we at least had substance. I felt like it was well edited. There was editing in there, the references
Whoever
to the
edited
show.
it was super good.
Exactly. They were bits, both of us get roasted by the editor. So while it is long, I feel like, break it up, grab a snack, come back, watch it a few different times. Whoever is putting up the YouTube channel could put ads anywhere in there. So it could be like 3 bonus episodes.
That's true.
We'll juice those numbers, get the numbers up.
Before I get kicked off the call, I also noticed there's not any Oscars coverage this year. It's kind of disappointing. Where's the Oscars special?
Oh, that's true. That's true.
I'm still waiting for The Hobbit to win the write-in vote. I've been protesting ever since.
I haven't watched the Oscars since Annette didn't win.
That's actually pretty.
Yeah,
that's smart.
and also, in solidarity, we boycotted the Oscars after Oppenheimer stole it from Killers of the Flower Moon and kicked Dead Reckoning Part 1 out of the IMAX. So winning all that gold was a reason enough to ignore the gold for at least a few years.
Okay. I like you guys actually. Okay. I got a couple
back in.
Got a couple thoughts on the final reckoning.
Oh yes, yeah. Go ahead.
This movie has a lot of exposition at the beginning. It's like 3 scenes of exposition. We got exposition from the tape. We got exposition with our bad guy Gabriel, and then we get Mission Impossible Tom gets captured again, and then we get more exposition with the president again. And then also, what the heck with our main man Tom getting captured so much? Alex, I think you might have mentioned it. It just seems like he's not as competent as he has been in the previous movies. I felt that did disservice to Mission Impossible Tom.
Yeah.
But the movie does a disservice to a lot of the other characters. You guys talked about Ilsa's amazing scene in the last movie with the sword fight. Where is any references to Ilsa at all? And then in a larger way, where is Vanessa Kirby in this movie?
It's true. She did not die in the last one.
And she was on the IMDb for this one.
It's true. It's true. Check out our trailer reaction review video on the Film Fan Club, part of the Film Fan Club network of trailer review.
I guess you don't really need to interact with the arms dealer that Ethan Hunt knows. Like,
she's a clear part of the movie, though. Like the last movie, the movie before that, it seems like she was all but set up to come back in this movie and be part of the ensemble and have maybe an even larger redemption arc.
She could be part of the team now.
Even fully redeemed into a good person. I don't know. The movie, I talked about it. I was thinking about it earlier. Pirates of the Caribbean at World's End. The dead man's
classic,
chest.
Classic.
The previous host mentioned on last year's or 2 years ago that this is like Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Man's Chest with At World's End. Well, At World's End introduces a lot of new plot beats. Like, not only do you have to kill Davy Jones, but if you kill Davy Jones, now you have to become Davy Jones. I'm like, where was that throughout the whole last movie? That's kind of what it felt like with the Rabbit's Foot. It felt like it was a little bit just tacked on to this other thing that existed that makes both movies feel a little bit cheaper.
Yeah, I think that's a good way of stating what we were trying to talk about. It's like, one, had the Rabbit's Foot been a fun Easter egg, a fun tip of the cap to 3, I think it could have worked really well. We're going to get this thing because we think it's the only thing that we can plug into the thing, as opposed to Luther making a poison pill. We're like, we got to get the Rabbit's Foot. And then it not being a thing that we ever need because, as you and I had talked about, or sort of even, I guess, I don't think we speculated on the podcast we did a few years ago. I think it came up later. But I at least was relatively positive that the entity was going to turn out to be like, because it was sentient, be good, actually. Like, we're doing all of this stuff. We're setting this mission up in this way. The entity's getting Ethan involved because it thinks it's the only one that will take it seriously. Even when we were watching Dead Reckoning Part 1 again, was thinking, that's why we're setting up the choice as this whole thing. We're going to offer the choice to a sentient AI, and it may refuse or may, Terminator 2, one of the greatest movies it's ever made itself, to where it's like, it can't destroy itself, but it allows itself to be destroyed because it sort of knows, like,
I know now why you cry, but it's something I can never do.
I can't, like, this kind of thing can't exist. Y'all will use it in a way to destroy yourselves.
Or I'd rather be dead than controlled.
Right.
In this movie, like Ethan has that bit where he's like, the options are the end of the world or the enslavement of the world to the entity.
Right.
And so it's like the entity could have been thinking that same thing.
Right.
That would have been interesting.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, I mean, like there was room for that, I felt, and even set up for it somewhat. But no, instead the entity in this film is just like a chaotic, evil god because the rabbit's foot was evil all those years ago, I guess.
Well, the entity learns, Ethan says, the entity thinks the way that it does because it's been shaped by what it's learned from us,
right?
By engaging with our like social media and our news and our intelligence operations and all that kind of stuff,
right?
So it behaves in the way that the internet makes humanity seem to behave. So then that's why it's evil until it learned something else from someone else.
Right, but we didn't get to that. Instead, we just...
Well, we might have gotten to that.
Right, well...
But we're not talking about headcanon right now.
Well, yeah, I guess that's true. We do have it... Well, we'll go through the movie. I don't know. We'll jump right to spoiler. It's trapped in a genie bottle. I kind of liked it.
Which is not dead. They keep talking about how they're going to kill it, but then it ends up stuck in a little bottle.
360 terabyte, 5-dimensional...
A theoretical 5-dimensional...
Yeah, was made up for this movie. It just sort of dropped in there and like...
It's a 5D... optical data drive.
360 terabytes in the palm of your hand.
Because Luther's so good that before
we've overpowered Luther at this point. No one is safe from Phineas Freak.
I thought these were just theoretical.
They were, until Luther built one.
Speaking of Luther, he dies in this movie. Spoilers. John called it. John was correct. John knew. He saw Sad Luther and he was like, I know what's up. John, do you want to talk about being correct?
Well, I'm always correct, and if I'm ever not correct, there's no record of that. Benji's going to die in the next movie. I thought he was going to die in this movie.
Oh, yeah, Benji's definitely dead.
Let's see. So Luther, I was, we talked last time, I think, about Sad Luther and his development into this character that is emotionally empathetic and understanding and like aware of other people's feelings and the way that other human beings process. And like, he's the guy that tells Ethan, okay, just make sure you understand that the entity has two objectives. Either one means the entity wins. You can't do either of them, even if you want to. I'm just going to make sure that you understand that before we go into this final mission. And so it's like he's sad, but he's sad because of his experiences and losses. In this one, he's just kind of seems sad because he's dying for some reason.
Right.
He's worked so hard in his little laboratory that he needs IVs and has like a nurse that comes and visits him. And I don't know, they never specify what is happening with him specifically, except that he's overworking.
He's working too hard. He's a workaholic.
And then when he dies, I think it is handled pretty well. So the context is that Gabriel escapes from whatever Ethan and Grace are trying to do with him. Gabriel gets away. Gabriel no longer is the chosen one of the entity. He just Gabriel has decided he's going to try and control the entity, like people keep trying to get Tom Cruise to do. And so the entity then says, okay, that Gabriel's excommunicated. He's not part of my team anymore. And Gabriel then goes and puts a bomb in a cage, lures Luther into the cage with the bomb, locks the cage after he's taken the poison pill that Luther created. And then he's like, okay, bye, Luther. Tell Ethan I said I'll be waiting for him. And then he leaves. And then Ethan shows up, and Ethan and Luther have this moment where Luther is kind of like content with the fact that he's going to die keeping this bomb from going nuclear. It's still going to explode and bury him in the catacombs.
Right.
But he gets to go out saving an entire city from getting nuked and allowing his friend Tom Cruise, Ethan Hunt, to keep living and continuing to pursue saving the world again.
Right.
So it's like he doesn't get that like relational fulfillment that kind of made him sad at not having, but he gets to go out instead of just dying in a hospital bed. He gets to go out saving the world.
Yeah. And I think like the conversation between Luther and Ethan was good. You know what I mean? Like I enjoyed that. Where I was less, I guess, caught up in the film was because it just felt like, I'm like, why is this happening now? Why is this happening this way? Like it's weird that Gabriel is still using the "it is written" line even though he's not the chosen one of the AI anymore. I also was thinking now, was it ever really Gabriel's goal to control the entity in Dead Reckoning Part 1? Seemed like he was just serving it.
He was just serving it.
Yeah, like it sort of just this. It's so, a lot of things felt changed in a way that didn't feel like payoffs to 7. Felt like we have to change what we're doing for 8. But again, like, Ving Rhames and Tom Cruise have wonderful chemistry. So like them interacting with each other, after all these years, we've seen them, Ethan and Luther was, it was powerful. It was good, but it just sort of like, it was like, this is a thing that I might've enjoyed if it didn't feel like we're just, we got to kill someone so you care about the movie now. You know what I mean? Like, had it been built up to, I think, better and not a weird, I don't know, the whole thing about the opening of this movie, until we sort of get to the aircraft carrier, which we can jump to there, everything feels kind of weird and like, what are we doing? You know what I mean? Like, why is this happening this way? Felt very, maybe, studio meddling, having to rewrite, got to make changes because Dead Reckoning Part 1 underperformed.
I mean, we don't know the specifics of any of that, but it's possible.
It's all speculation. It's all speculation.
It's all headcanon and headcanon.
Right. Speculating, headcanoning. But yeah, so Tom Cruise runs really fast. He doesn't explode. Luther explodes. And then he turns himself into one of the little CIA guys. They already got one of the, so the CIA guys have broken up because, Tom and Benji had to rescue Pom from prison. And the little CIA guys were there. Yeah, it was fun. We get a quick little mask reveal, kind of some silly shenanigans. Does show the CIA guys are pretty good because they hold back, Ethan in this fight. They don't get tased, and also, get to see how hardcore Pom is there. But yeah, so we got that. But then after this, so my bad, jumping around. The other big thing. So we run away. Gabriel escapes, but the door opens and Ethan climbs into the like coffin thing that we saw Gabriel on in the train, where he gets like a download direct from the entity.
You can see it in the trailer. He gets strapped into the little box, and then the mask comes over him and it locks over his eyes. And then you get this conversation kind of thing between Ethan and the entity where, and as he's going into it, people are like, if you go in that box, it'll change you. And then he's like, I got to talk to the entity. And he gets in the box, and then it locks him in, and it talks to him. And it basically tells him, you have to go to this place in Africa
South
somewhere.
Africa. Yep.
And it's a doomsday vault that has a big enough server for me. Well, we don't know that yet. You got to go to the doomsday vault in South Africa. And you got to let me into the doomsday vault. And then the fate of the world will be decided in the blink of an eye. And then Ethan is like, I don't accept that.
Yeah.
And it does this thing where like, it causes him pain, and you get these like really flashy montages where the entity is like communicating
sort of
information,
like showing
visually.
him a version of the future that we did kind of set up with 7, to where it's like, there all of these potential outcomes, I can predict them, but this is what I need you to do. Essentially, this is what I'm saying you're going to do. Gabriel's out. Ethan's the new Gabriel. So yeah, so we get that whole, I guess, info dump. I also, the callback to like, I don't accept that. Whereas like when we said that in 7, it was Ethan not accepting that the mission would matter more than his friends' lives. And then now it's like, I don't accept that these are the 2 options of the choice. It's not bad, but it did just sort of like, I don't know, did feel like we're just trying to do this quickly, not necessarily with the same level of care as the last ones.
And it was a kind of a bummer that it wasn't like, they didn't take the, like, what we were kind of speculating was going to happen. The AI is good, actually, or it's given the choice, or there's some sort of like intelligence with which each Ethan can communicate and deal kind of thing. This conversation with the entity was much more just, I am the entity. I am evil. You're going to do what I want because you have to kind of thing, which was a little shallow from what we wanted, but yeah,
it was. I mean, again, I just, maybe this was the plan all along. I almost refuse to believe. I don't accept that. But anyway, we've been going for almost an hour, so let's check and see if this caller's Tom letting us know where he's at. So yeah.
Hi, calling in from Tulsa.
Hey,
Is this Tom? I don't know why
Yeah,
he'd be
is
in
this-
Tulsa though.
he runs really fast, so it could be.
He does run.
No,
You
I
guys
got-
got a big
I got a
fan
lot of
base in
things.
Tulsa. Sounds like.
Yeah, we're huge in Tulsa. We haven't broken into too many other markets yet.
Gabriel, Alex, I think you made a lot of good points about Gabriel being clearly just a hatchet job of a character in this movie. I'm of two minds about him. I like how unhinged he is after he's been abandoned by the entity, and I kind of buy that he's like, screw it, I'm just gonna take over the entity now. I thought I could. My whole life was, my whole part of my life was working for this thing that I believed in, but now it's abandoned me, and now I'm gonna turn against it, almost in the same way that Pom Kazakhstan turned against Gabriel. Also, you guys skipped over Pom's amazing introduction. I mean, you touched on it, but midriff shot up to her face.
A reminder of being stabbed.
Flashback,
Full flashback.
back to midriff
The exact
shot
same
again.
shot. We're just.
And
I think it's the same exact shot.
I feel like they
twice.
didn't even shoot it twice. They just reused.
They're just
the
like put it
footage.
back. Yeah,
You know what?
So
Sploosh
much-
though. So
There's so
like-
much reused footage in this movie. You see the shot of him grabbing the rabbit's foot like 4 times in the same movie. Luther was Luther set up as dying at all in the last movie? I feel like there's like a plot beat that we miss with Luther in between films. Like he's I'm gonna go undercover. I gotta take on the entity. In this movie, we meet him. I'm in a hospital bed now. I'm dying, and I get the implication. Oh, he's working himself to death. But I feel like that's like the movie skipping over.
Right.
Like
There's definitely felt like we missed a huge thing because even the John with his superpowers of knowing when people's gonna die, he was convinced it was Benji in movie 7.
I was convinced it was both.
No. If the record will show, if you go back and watch, John only thought Luther was going to die.
That's true. That's
during
true.
the Dead Reckoning or the Final Reckoning trailer, which I called that John would call.
Is Luther gonna die?
There it is. My prediction was like partway through the trailer, you're going to predict that both Benji and Luther are going to die.
So in a way, Alex, you're right.
Yes,
In the
I am
long
right.
run.
I didn't think Luther was going to die because these movies
Don't say
usually subvert expectations. No, I mean that's what I'm
Well,
getting
that's
at.
why
Is
Benji's
why.
not dead.
Right. But still in a way that is, for the most part, with especially 5, 6, and 7, felt more clever than what we did in this one.
Unless my headcanon is true.
Yeah, well, which we'll get to.
later.
Right. But, again, so
Stay tuned.
it is, we are, we got to move along. We got to keep this going. We're not going for 4.5 hours this time.
We don't have the studio.
Got
for
the
that.
notes. All right. They dropped the Dear Sams and Sam got in touch. But so that gets us to Luther exploding. Ethan runs really fast. He turns himself into one of the little CIA guys because Degas has now joined their team after a fun little showdown at the prison where we meet Pom again. And then Tom is taken to, I guess, intelligence kind of U.S. bunker.
Whatever the off-grid.
Yeah, the off-grid
intelligence
site that they've set up
thing.
to, deal with the fact that what we find out the entity's main goal is now is just to hack all of the nuclear systems throughout the world. And then once it has all of them, blow up the world. And in doing this, the AI has also created, it's used sparingly here and there, a cult-like following with some, random humans, and these humans are infiltrating all levels of government, or they're being, convinced or coerced by the AI to believe that, yes, we should blow up the world, and then the entity shall take the few remaining humans and bring about a better society post-nuclear annihilation.
The entity shall lead the children of Adam.
Yeah, the children of Adam, because Adam and it's an atom in the
Fallout?
electrons.
Thing?
Yeah,
Fallout, not Fallout.
yeah, not
Mission
Fallout,
Impossible,
not
but
Mission
Fallout. The game.
Fallout. The game, yes.
The
See,
other
it all
Fallout
connects.
thing.
Everything's media.
That's right. Everything
so-
is everything. Actually, we're all connected.
We're all connected. It's a metaphor for, I forget what the Gnostic thing. Shout out to Brad. Anyway, so Tom, the president's like, no, you can't have an aircraft carrier. You're going to prison. And then it's like, oops, just kidding. You actually do get an aircraft character. I'm going to write the date that Mission Impossible 1 was released in theaters on a piece of paper. And that's going to be meaningful to a character we've never met before for a reason, because the superior didn't take a risk. And it's so meaningful that it's going to allow you to have your own aircraft carrier and provoke World War III with Russia. But we got to keep moving along because we also got to get Tom to a submarine where we can meet Seth Melchek again. So he jumps out of the thing. He gets rescued by scary scuba guys. He's taken on board. You know, he hangs out with Tremar Tillman, who, again, is great in the film. Had a lot of fun. Definitely playing Milchek again, you know, so don't know when we brought in Tremar Tillman for this thing. Don't know how much was redone. But it is, as we sort of alluded to earlier, like Tom is going on the mission to get in range so he can dive to the Sevastopol to retrieve the source code bit that will help them create the poison pill for the entity so that they can kill it, hopefully. And the rest of the crew is going to a radar tower in Alaska to use, I think it's Sonos, basically analog underwater sonar thing where there's all these stations around the world that can pinpoint like crazy sounds that happen. Basically
Seismic activity underwater.
Right.
So they're trying to find the station that recorded the explosion back in 2012 of the Sevastopol sinking.
Yes.
Then they can figure out where that happened underwater, and then they can radio the coordinates for that to Ethan on the sub so that the sub can take him to where the Sevastopol is, and then he can use a crazy diving suit to dive down and then get the thing, the Porchek. I don't know what it's called.
I don't remember what it's called either, but it's the bit of the stealth technology that the Americans had smuggled the AI onto so that they could track the Sevastopol and where it, I guess, went rogue. Which also, I'm led to believe from 7 that it was like the AI hadn't gone rogue in the whole world. It sort of became self-aware on the Sevastopol.
In 2012.
Which is why we could see the eye everywhere. And then from there, broadcast itself out somehow. But now it seems like in this movie, we're saying the entity can't even get back to its source code for some reason.
Well, the entity can't physically get there.
I guess that's
it can
true.
Probably
yeah,
communicate
it's probably
with
communicate.
itself,
Okay,
but
yeah,
it just physically
it sort of made it all
sub.
seem. I was like, what is I thought it hid itself here underwater, under ice, to be protected, which I guess it did. But then it's like Tom's the one that can get there. I don't know. Again, maybe we'll watch it a few times and I'll put the pieces together in my mind. Or John will have a canon that will.
Well, my head canon already solves the problem.
No,
so, we're done. I don't have
understand.
There's no criticism in this movie now.
Because your head canon is the movie didn't happen.
No, it happened. It just happened. Yeah. We'll talk about it. We're
getting there. But anyway, yeah. So again, we already talked about this underwater scene. Is incredible. They do the thing. We get there. Oh, and at the radar tower in Alaska, we meet William Donloe again. Rolf Saxon.
Sam Alex called it.
Yeah, he walks into the living room, and they have that moment where everyone should be applauding. And in our first IMAX thing, I'm like, guys, that's William Donloe. Everyone should be excited. You saw him so much in the trailer. But then they were like, William Donloe, the black blocks at Langley. And then the theater clapped, and I was like, morons. But anyway,
how dare you not rewatch this franchise 8 times.
Really exciting to have him back. You know what I mean? It's fun. It's a cool little tip of the cap to one of my favorite lines in the whole franchise. Kittredge being like, I want him manning a radar tower in Alaska by the end of the day. Just mail his clothes. Just classic Kittredge, why he's one of the best. But yeah, so it was nice. It was cool to see. He's got a wife. They're hanging out. They're doing cool stuff. He's apparently created the black box. That was his coding creation, we learned in this film. And yeah, so smart guy helping out. And he's gonna join up with him, essentially, is what we learn here, because they start fighting with the Russians. He and his wife put in motion the plan for them to be able to do it. He had already found the location of the Sevastopol, and he had destroyed, the backup copy of it. So it was only in his head. Smart guy, knew something was coming. Oh, also, we find out, had been trying to warn people about the entity for 10 years, but no one would listen.
Because he was just an analyst that got disgraced.
That never
and sent
gets
to
followed
Alaska.
up on at all. That's just a thing that he says
But you
in
know
the
what?
movie.
If the entity is a U.S. created, well, I guess it's a Chinese created algorithm,
Right.
Sentient
Which-
AI that the U.S. then steals,
Right. So
Through
Mission Impossible 3
Davian.
came out 2006.
and then
Cool.
and then
So 6 years
the
later,
U.S.
U.S.
then
got it working. Okay.
The U.S. then attaches it to the Sevastopol fleet. Actually, the U.S. puts it in the entire Russian fleet, all to get it into the stealth sub, to sabotage the stealth sub and make it detectable.
Right. We say in this
back
movie.
in 2012.
Right.
Well, I mean, I think they mention it in the end of 7 when Cary Elwes is on the train talking to Gabriel. He's like, oh, well, it was a U.S.
Oh yeah, we know
AI
it was. But like, yeah, I don't remember if we mentioned it going on like the whole fleet or specifically to stop the Sevastopol.
We were able to transmit an early copy of the AI to Russia's newest submarine.
The top secret Yakula class. They called her the Sevastopol.
Which again made me think when watching 7 that the Sevastopol was a jump in technology that had happened recently, not 2012.
Right.
So that's why I was drawing attention to that part. Because but anyway, yeah. So we get the coordinates. They transmit them. Mara Tillman gets them. They send Tom down. They are just slowing down just enough so Tom can jump out of a submarine and swim down to the thing.
Because they're being followed by a Russian sub.
Yes.
And so they can't stop over the Sevastopol and let Ethan go down and come back up to the sub. They have to keep going so that the Russians don't know where the Sevastopol sank.
Yes.
And so there's that cool bit where he jumps out of the American sub and then tumbles down along the side of the American sub. And then the Russian sub comes in right behind him and he has to like tumble around the back of the Russian sub and then get away from the propellers. And like, that's a cool bit.
It's all like, again, almost everything once he jumps out of the sub is rad. There's like little bits of being in the sub that I'm like, again, what is happening? When did it become this?
Like what bits in the sub did you not like?
I mean, I get like the acolyte being there with the knife. There's just like little, what I mean? Like little stuff where I'm still just kind of bumping against, was this the plan the whole time or did we have to redo a whole bunch? But like once he's diving down, it feels like what we probably were going to do. Cause we knew we had to get on the Sevastopol starting with, then in 7, he had to get down there somehow. And all of that whole sequence is incredible. Like when he moves an air pocket, it causes the whole sub to start rolling slowly. So the whole time he's trying to go through this, you're watching the water, be at the gravity level as he's moving through the different, compartments and everything down there on the sub. It, he's having to climb upside down. It's just, there's a bunch of like added levels of like, this is crazy breaking into this thing, not just because it's, a Russian sub, but it's been sunk underwater for years, parts of it may not be working. All the torpedoes are floating around, but it's great. And then it was kind of funny that the key that we used to get in there, once it's done, he just leaves it in the lock. He's just like, all right.
Yeah, because you don't need it anymore.
Yeah, I was like, that was such a cool prop to now just leave at the bottom of the ocean. But like, not in a nitpicky way. I was just like, oh man, that was kind of funny. I liked how it looked.
There's, we haven't talked about it very much, but like the music in this movie is a little more muted and subdued than the other ones, which is kind of a bummer. It's one of the things that I, kind of disappointed me the first time we watched it. But the fact that it is muted works really good for the Sevastopol scene.
Right.
Because the music during the scene, Ethan is infiltrating the submarine at the bottom of the ocean all by himself. There's deep pressure. It's cold. There's dead bodies that have been under the water for 12 years or whatever. And the music is very like low, kind of like atonal, ominous, kind of slow plotting. And then the percussion of that scene ends up becoming like, as the submarine creaks and shifts and rolls and rocks break as it rolls down the hill, that then becomes percussion to accompany the music. So I really liked that. That whole scene is very tense. Yeah. There's this interesting, like, when Ethan is in the box before, it shows, the entity says, it like shows him what will happen when he goes to the Sevastopol, and he's like swimming through that torpedo room, and a ladder falls and hits a nuke and it explodes.
Right. And
that explosion then kills all of his team that are up on the ice to try and recover him when he gets up there. And so he's like worried about that happening. And then as he's going through it, really, there's a moment where a little ladder does drift down and it just misses one of the missiles.
Yeah.
And then the missiles proceed to like tumble and fall all over the place and not explode.
Right.
So it's like, well, I mean, that explosion thing was just the entity fucking with him too, I guess.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I don't know how missiles work. I see in cartoons they hit the heads with hammers sometimes to test them, but then they explode. So who knows? You know, could be Looney Tunes rules out there. But yeah, no, it is. The music in this scene was one of my favorites. Of like how well it worked with what was going on. You know, we're still getting the sting. We're still having a decent theme song rendition this time. I miss Lorne Balfe. I wish they were back, but you know, it is what it is. Can't win them all. Mm-hmm. But Lorne Balfe, you were missed. So, but yeah. So, again, like you said, it works well in this scene. It adds to the tension. Even in my sort of being somewhat confused about why all of this is happening, this scene it's just incredible. Mm-hmm. Like, it's an incredible stunt. The filmmaking of it is next level, and just the way they use all of those elements, the music, like the rotating, the set rotating around the camera, is just, it's super fun. It's super great, and worth seeing on the biggest screen you can.
Yeah, and you know, we've covered a lot since the last time we went to the phones. Is maybe Tom Cruise on the line this time?
Smooth as butter. But yeah, let's go to the phones. Let's hear.
Hi, calling in from Tulsa.
Hi. Is this Tom?
No, I just wanted to say I love the submarine sequence, and I think this is a good time to talk about it as well, because after the submarine sequence, Tom Cruise, has a near-death experience where he's saved by Haley Atwell's character, and they have a very passionate kiss. And it really got me thinking, having watched the entire Mission Matinee podcast series.
Thank you for watching.
That John was completely wrong about Haley Atwell being his daughter. I mean, clearly not the case, right?
Well, I would say that the kiss is the kiss of life, and she's giving him mouth-to-mouth resuscitation, so that doesn't necessarily
but having seen the rest of the movie, it doesn't really bear that out, does it?
Seen the rest of the movie? Yeah. What? They don't hook up in the movie.
They lay together, don't they? And then,
they do lay together in the parabolic chamber, but that's because they have she has to warm his body because he froze to death under the water.
Yes.
So that is not a intimacy
like when John
thing.
It's
just
the callers. It's a fun time.
Yeah, the callers, I hate them. Unless they're Tom Cruise, but they're never Tom Cruise.
I hate the general public. I don't want their opinions.
The entity also starts a ticking time bomb at the beginning of this movie, which felt very Rise of Skywalker-y. The Empire will start attacking all free worlds in 16 hours. Why in 16 hours? Because it's a movie.
Right.
It felt like a movie.
You gotta have a clock.
Right.
Yes.
The Mission Impossible movie is famous for not having arbitrary ticking clocks.
They at least are worked into the plot better. I'm just saying.
This movie said it'll take 3 days for the entity to hack the nuclear command centers of,
I guess, the remaining countries like
England, China, Russia, and then the U.S. because the U.S. has the best computer defense.
We have the best computer defense.
For some reason.
The best computers.
And then immediately they're going to start
designed by William
attacks.
Donloe.
Were they going to immediately start nuclear attacks in the last movie?
No, I think the idea is that by the time they hack all the nuclear centers other than the U.S. as a state will be forced to take action before we lose control of our nukes to nuke the control centers of all of those other countries that the entity controls in order to prevent the entity from doing an all-out nuclear war.
Yeah, we nuke everything we have to stop all of the world's nukes from going, even though we have hundreds of times more nukes than everyone else.
And us with nukes. We've got about 2,600 more than anybody else. Whatever. Anyway.
Well, we wouldn't shoot all our nukes. Yes. We would just shoot
enough.
9 nukes. One at each of the nuclear.
John, you're right. There's going to be 9 movies, one for each nuke.
One of my favorite moments in the movie, jumping back earlier, Pom Clementine is immediately starts shooting at Gabriel. And no, Ethan wants him alive. Well, I want him dead.
That was good.
I like that little dig eye. He's like, we talked about this.
Yeah. and then lastly, before you guys kick me off the phone, I really like the submarine shot when the submarine's like plummeting down and Tom's like halfway out and you see him dangling. Good movies.
Yeah.
Wrapped in a bad script. Yes.
Still, says caller from Tulsa, anonymous caller from Tulsa.
The stunts are still good. And so, to jump on to what the caller was talking about, Tom has to get out of the Sevastopol because the torpedo is blocked the main door he came in from, so he can't go out the way he came in. So he decides torpedo tube.
Torpedo tube.
And it's the only line of dialogue in this whole sequence. Everything else is just him sneaking around, the sounds of the submarine creaking and the music. So again, really effective. But yeah, his suit is too big while he's wearing it the way he is. So he cuts open the like layer keeping him warm. He's just in his, underwear, and he's got his oxygen mask on, and he's getting to that torpedo tube, barely able to get out as he's being pulled down. And then that moment, you're like, man, that was crazy. He's got to swim up now. It grabs his pack, and he has to take off the mask and swim up 500 plus feet, and while also blowing all the air out of his lungs so he doesn't die. And he will get the bends, and he does, and it's crazy. But fortunately, William Donloe remembered the coordinates, gave some to his wife, sent the others to Tramar Tillman, but coded adjacently in case the Russians were listening. And yeah, it works out. Haley Atwell, Grace keeps him warm in the decompression chamber, where normally it would be days, but they had a special mix, proprietary classified mix of gases that allowed him to only be in there for a few hours. So, we do get a Fifth Element-y type situation between Grace and Ethan, with the fun, William Donloe's wife looking down, winks at him.
Winks.
Yeah. Bunch of good, fun, family fun times. And then we are going to South Africa because it is written. We have to. And we get another one of those moments where Ethan has to do exactly what the bad guys want in order to actually stop the bad guys. But again, for some reason, maybe it was just, I'm tired. I kind of, different parts of the movie weren't working. It felt more forced and like not what I would have expected in what might be the culminating one, like they're like, we're just getting the same stuff we've heard in so many other movies, but like the stakes are weirder. So I just wasn't as bought into it. Maybe
there's this weird element of Gabriel's plan. So Gabriel wants to control the entity. In order to control the entity, he needs to take the poison pill that Luther made that he has, and the hard drive from the Sevastopol that Ethan has,
which is the source code. So
plug them together,
make like a vaccine.
That source code will then upload to the internet and counterattack all of the extant entities' awareness.
Yeah.
Altering the entity's ability to perceive reality in the opposite way that the entity was altering humanity's ability to perceive reality. And then once its ability to perceive reality is altered, he can then control it somehow.
Right.
For some reason.
Some way. Yeah.
The good guys, Ethan and team, need him to do that same upload, and then they will open up a digital avenue for the entity to download itself into the Doomsday Vault.
Right.
And because it will, at that point, not be able to perceive reality accurately, it will think it's downloading itself into the Doomsday Vault, but will actually be downloading itself into the 5-dimensional theoretical hard drive thing that Luther made before he died.
Right.
And then once it gets uploaded into that, they have to snatch it off of the server
connection so that because it wants to get into the servers so it can survive the nuclear Armageddon it's going to do. So that like it's in a place that will still have electricity and data after it blows up the physical world. So they have to let it mostly do that, and then they'll have about a millionth of a second or 100th of a second.
The blink of an eye.
Yeah, the blink of an eye. The timing of the timing to get it fully downloaded before it has enough time to be downloaded, confirmed, downloaded, and launch all the nukes. So it's difficult.
And so then
one might say impossible.
Ethan's plan is that they'll go in and give Gabriel the hard drive and then let him leave. And then I guess disarm the nuke that Gabriel sets and then go into the server room.
Right. Well,
assuming Gabriel lets any of them live before he leaves.
They didn't think Gabriel's going to have a nuke in there when they're doing their first original draft of the plan to give Gabriel the thing.
I mean, he can just pull nukes out of his pocket.
Yeah, he's got them all the time.
He's got all the nukes in the world.
He's got no past, and he's got nukes of varying sizes everywhere all the time. And it's wild. And they're just throwing around megatons like they're candy. Luther's like, this is a 7 megaton. It'll turn this place into a glass ice tray. And then Gabriel's like, this is a 45 megaton. I don't remember the exact number. But they're just throwing them around. It's
very big nukes.
Yeah, very, very big nukes. Also, they used, when they do the Doomsday thing, I forgot about this, in the Entity's dream to Ethan, they used the shot of the nuke flying from 4.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I was like, oh, nice. And then a bunch of other ones. But I was like, it's just weird. It's like sometimes we're getting footage from the other movies as flashback, and then other times we're getting footage from the other movies as exposition for this movie. And that felt weird to me as someone who dabbles in editing.
You know why?
Yeah, we're getting there.
You know why? It's because it is weird. Intentionally so.
Yeah, we're close to the end, and then we can talk about how none of it actually happened.
It all happened,
yeah.
you fool.
Future kicks.
So what are we
reference
on?
to a joke that John hasn't made yet.
That's right.
We are at the point where they've gotten to.
Kittredge shows up and interrupts the handoff.
Right. Yeah. We were saying they're on their way to this, but yes. So then they get there. Gabriel is there, and he's brought a nuke this time because he doesn't trust Ethan. He's got a guy holding a switch, an elevator switch that's going to trigger the nuke. It's countdown to begin so we can get the minimum safe distance. Classic stuff from Mission Impossible. And then Kittredge somehow also, I guess that kind of makes sense. He knew that the Entity would probably try to go to this bunker, this safe bunker, that find a way. So he knew where Ethan was going to end up after all of these moving parts. So he goes there with who Shea Wiggum was Briggs. We find out, spoilers, Phelps.
You're a hard man to catch up with.
Son of the bad guy from 1.
Yes.
But also the good guy in the show. So kind of get what you're doing.
He disappeared when New Phelps, Shea Wiggums, was 7.
Mm-hmm.
And then he disappeared to join the IMF because he got into legal trouble. And then he was in the IMF. Shea Wiggum joined the feds to try and figure out what happened to his dad. Then figured out that his dad betrayed everybody in Mission 1 and then changed his name so that he wouldn't have to carry that stigma. But then he was like, it's my name. I'm not pissed about it.
He wasn't really that worried about it, but he was kind of worried about it. He was hiding that he was a Phelps for fun, but he wasn't hiding it. And then he also, that wasn't his problem with Ethan. His actual problem with Ethan was that he doesn't follow orders.
I'm here because I know you're the reason the world's staring down the barrel at Armageddon. And I also know it's not the first time you've gambled with the fate of the human race. And none of that would matter to me if you'd ever once been following orders.
It wasn't that like he makes a decision and goes rogue and does other crazy things. He's like, but you should have, at one time, you should have followed orders, and I would have been fine with everything you've done. I never would have been mad at you. We would have been best friends at the airport and in Rome. But it's because you never once followed orders. And I'm just like, is this good? I don't know. Anyway, I'm making it sound worse than it did, but it did kind of feel like that. I was like, what? I don't get why is this the complaint? But yeah, so they interrupt the plan. Kittredge is like, Ethan's got to have a plan. Tell me what that plan is. I don't care. We're standing 2 feet away from a nuke that's going to go off in 19 minutes. I need to know the plan because all the nukes in the world are going to launch soon if I don't know this plan. But then Gabriel, of course, suspected a double cross. So he had more guys in hiding.
An extra backup team.
Yeah, secondary backup team. He likes to have 2 of stuff. He brought an extra plane.
I have a plane that'll take me to minimum safe distance. Reliable, analog, under the radar. I even brought a spare, just in case.
And he tells us that he brought an extra plane. I brought a spare plane, just in case.
Just in case.
Which ends up being his downfall.
Yeah, it's true. The backups.
His downfall, he falls down.
Yeah.
Unintentional pun there.
That's good. That's good. But anyway, so the other guys show up. Gunfight happens. Benji gets shot. People running away. Tom has to drive. Not the best driving we've seen in a mission movie, but still kind of fun, kind of chaotic. Car flips over. And then he's got to run really fast through the jungle. And Gabriel's in a nice yellow plane. He's flying. Tom Cruise almost said that. Doesn't quite make it. Then there's a red plane coming. So Tom lays down, grabs the bar, flies off with it. At the same time, Benji is teaching. Well, Donloe, his wife, Degas, gonna disarm the nuke. Everyone's basically run off or died now. That wasn't part of the main crew. And Benji, Pom, and Paris and Grace. Sorry, I keep calling her Pom, but her character's name is Paris.
Everybody knows what we're talking about when we say Pom.
For sure. I just realized I'd been, switching them up, so I was just having fun for a second. And Grace go in to the server room and to hack it, to add the digital backdoor for the entity to come through, and then also Paris is performing surgery on Benji to help save his life because she's a killer. So
because Benji got shot.
Right.
Benji got shot in the big ruckus, the big old dust up, and then he hides it until Ethan leaves to chase Gabriel.
Classic.
And then he's like, oh, I got shot, actually. Yeah. And then by the time they get into the server room, he starts to, I forget what it's called,
his lungs,
pneumothorax or something.
Yep.
It's attention pneumothorax.
Exactly. His lungs collapsing, so they need to cover the wound to create a seal and then poke a hole so it can let the trapped fluid out.
And so Benji is having to walk Pom through the surgery.
Yes.
And simultaneously walk Grace through the hacking job while he's running low on breath and then starting to faint.
Right.
And so I really like that dynamic of that situation. There's not a lot of when you see the server room, it's got these really tall towers and this ankle deep water with these kind of like
liquid
gangways. And it's like, oh, that would be really cool to have like people running through and doing fights through. That would be cool. But there's no real action in there.
No.
It's just the scene where Benji does the dual walkthrough.
Yeah.
And I was a little disappointed on first watch through because potentials pop up into my head and I go, oh, that'd be really sick. And then that potential thing doesn't happen because the people actually making the movie have different ideas for what they want to do. And my brain's first response is, oh, I wish they'd done the thing that I wanted. And then after I think about it a little while, I'm like, that was okay what they did. That's not bad. I liked it.
Yeah. No, it is a well written scene that the two Benji needing to explain two different complicated tasks to these people while he's the one dying. But I also felt like we've gone to a location that in a usual Mission Impossible film, we would explore a bit more and have some interesting stuff going on. But instead, we're just getting to this, thing with, again, felt like a lower budget prop of the glass cube, the, cut the wire thing. So it's just I was going back and forth because it is well written and compelling, and a little bit more tense than some of the other things we've seen. Benji needing to do all of these different elements, while also having some of that comedy with Benji, he's passing out and they're waking him up by pulling his ear. You know what I mean? It's hitting several different layers of beats, which I did enjoy. Chris McHugh can be a good writer. Most of the time, I think he is a very good writer. It's there's just some of this where I'm well, I don't know what happened. I don't know how this got this way. But yeah, so that all of that's going on, and we have what is just a gorgeous stunt sequence going on. Tom Cruise climbing onto the red plane, beating up the guy. We get a double beat of the moment you love from Fallout, where the helicopter guy is just surprised that he's there. We get that with the red helicopter, and then we get that with Gabriel and the yellow biplane. And yeah, it's incredible. Tom is flying, and he's at one point he's flying the red biplane with his foot, so he can get close enough to the yellow one so he can grab onto the bottom. It's not a full jump between biplanes, but damn, it's pretty close, and I enjoyed the hell out of it. And then Gabriel is torturing him, essentially.
Just playing with him.
Yeah, just messing with him. Exactly. That kind of I'm going to play with my
really
food.
Liked,
yeah, that was my favorite part. That's what you felt okay, this makes sense. This is this sadistic guy, taking glee in the fact that, Ethan's barely holding on. He's trying to balance in between all the little wires there as it flies around through the air. And then again, that classic Mission Impossible thing, that's what messes him up. He pushes the plane. It's not Tom is able to, or Ethan is able to get the one up because Gabriel went so far that the plane stalls. You know what I mean? It's this is good. But then at the same time, all of the dialogue you're getting that feels very ADR'd in is this doesn't feel like the original reason we built up to this incredible stunt sequence. So now we're just doing it. And, oh, man, we only got about half an hour left. Do you want to see if Tom's called? See if he's just meeting us for barbecue now?
See if Tom's
well, let's go to the phone.
Spiders. Tom called us yet?
Not yet. We do have some callers, though.
All right, cool. Well, we'll let him go.
Hi, calling in from Tulsa.
Hey, how's Tulsa right now?
Tulsa is fantastic. The weather's beautiful. Mission Impossible is in the air.
Nice.
One thing about the biplane,
Just like Tom.
It definitely feels like you've talked about it before. That part of the movie felt like it was originally like maybe a midway point or a first act even, or some. It didn't feel like it was originally the climax. And the circumstances definitely feel like they were originally different. Like maybe like Gabriel was doing like a deal or something, and somebody like just the whole haphazard like I even have an extra plane seems very like weird. Yeah.
Right.
And then you guys talked about it a little bit earlier, but the Jim Phelps thing is just so silly. It feels a little bit like you should go by your original name. I like that, Robin. It's like, okay, you're just saying things now. You don't need to do that. He's his own character. And it would have been fine if he grows to like Ethan over the course of the movie, but just tacking in all this stuff that is like, you should be more sentimental now because we said it connects to the old thing.
Right.
It feels a little cheap. But yeah, the biplane is seen as very good. It's a great stunt. There are moments, just watching in the IMAX whenever Tom's dangling from the thing.
Yeah, when he's hanging from the strap upside down.
Even haven't seen it in the trailer, it's fantastic. But just compare it to how well that final stunt in Dead Reckoning is built up. Dead Reckoning Part 1 is built up. And the time they spend setting up all the dominoes just to push him over. And this one, it just feels like, I have 2 biplanes. Let's hop on them.
Right.
Good stunt. Just, again, it's surrounded by it as not a great of a script.
Yeah. It could have bested the helicopter fight chase from Fallout, but without all of the context, like Fallout, everything is building to this. We know why. There's 2 planes. There just happens to be 2 helicopters there because it's a medical camp. One of them is carrying supplies. Lein tells him to take both. Tom has to grab onto the payload of one of them to climb the rope, to get in the helicopter, to fly the helicopter, to get the thing so they can stop the 2 sets of it's like everything about that is built up so well to where the action of the fight is like playing with the themes and other things going on. Henry Cavill's finally allowed to try to kill Ethan, for the first time in the movie. So he's like kind of having fun with it for a bit, and he's still frustrated by this guy. There's like so much that builds up to this incredible stunt sequence that like was entirely missing from this movie. There's like almost nothing that builds up to the biplane sequence other than Gabriel saying, I even brought a spare. We don't have the deep connection that was hinted at. Like like in 7, there's this tease of Gabriel's from Ethan's before he ever went to the IMF. Something tragic happened. Some woman named Marie, who happens to look a lot like Haley Atwell, died 30 years ago. And then this lady who joins, who might be in her 30s. So there's all of this stuff going on that is just wiped out of this movie to like make it all about Ethan and his choices in ways that like, why no one was really questioning this before. Why now? To like get to a cheap thing of like that, like so.
In Dead Reckoning, there's even a line where I don't know who it is. Somebody says that Gabriel is, in a very real sense, the man who made Ethan who he is today.
Yep. In a very real sense, he made me who I am today.
And then in this movie, none of that
matters.
Like even like referenced, really
not touched on.
They go,
not
you were
talked
probably
about.
framed, Ethan.
Yeah, it was probably a frame job. The internet guessed it, so we're moving on. Yeah, which I guess leads us to So Ethan does, through a aerobatic insanity, get to the drive or the poison pill. Gabriel laughs and kills himself unintentionally.
Good luck.
I laughed both times we watched it. I was like, that's amazing.
Yeah. And then Ethan tries to fly the plane, but he can't. So he grabs the second parachute, even though Gabriel's laughing. There's only one parachute. Maybe he just meant I'm the only one that has one on and the plane's upside down. Not really sure. But so he flips the plane back over. It starts to catch on fire. He gets out. So he just keeps trying to put the drive in the thing. Can't get the thing to slot into the other thing because, smoke's happening. And then So he opens his parachute and he's trying to put it in, but then his parachute catches on fire, disappears, so he's just fallen. And then now he's like, okay, I got to make sure the thing's in the thing before I open the parachute. And we do get that sort of, again, it was done much better in Fallout, but that like cutting back and forth between the groups trying to do one thing all at the same time before a countdown hit 0. You know, a very Mission Impossible thing. But again, I've seen it done better in other Mission Impossible movies. But it was good. Grace is very fast. Timing is everything when you're a pickpocket. So she was able to flip the switch, watch for the light, cut the thing, and grab the infinity drive or whatever it's called that's glowing now because the entity's in it. And Donloe and his wife are also runners, we find out. Donloe figures out that if we cut 3 wires at the same time, that'll delay the implosion by 10 seconds. So that everyone lives. Benji even lives, even though he's shot and stabbed by a pen. And then the ending is voiceover from Luther that was on the drive that he knew Ethan would end up with. You know, like he trusted Ethan. He knew he was going to get there. Talks about how dust is wind. And then the final bit is them standing in London looking at each other a lot.
And then
walk
away.
They all get their spy walk away into a crowd. And then the theme song plays. But we don't get the curtain call that we've had for so many movies. We don't get the flashback of all the fun scenes because, like, I guess we're sad now. I don't know. That was my other complaint about the biplane scene. Like, it could have just been as fun as the helicopter chase. You know, we could have used some of the same, like, music. It could have been when he's, like, climbing up the thing. We could have gotten the fun, like, bam, 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 you know, and gone back and forth. Like, but instead, it was kind of funny when he was sad speed parachuting at the end of 7, you know, with Kittredge VO. Like, that was like, this is an extreme sport, but he's like doing flips and being contemplative and sad. I was like, that's funny. But then the biplane incredibleness not being a like celebration and fun thing just was a weird creative choice to me. Like, you could still have a movie that's the end that has a bunch of excitement when we're doing the most exciting thing people have seen on film.
But what if it's not the end?
I mean, I hope it's not the end.
How do you know this is all real? How do you know any of this is real?
I don't.
The entity.
Yeah.
Controls perceptions. Who knows?
John, do you want to talk about your headcanon?
Yeah, sure.
I literally whispered to Carter, like, within that opening bit before the curtain calls, like, we're going to see that this is all just a simulation of the entity trying to figure out how to beat Ethan. And then that never happened. And I was like,
yeah, because you thought it was going to be the cold open was a simulation.
I did.
My headcanon is that the entirety of the movie, from when he gets in the box to the end, is the entity playing along with whatever Ethan thinks would happen in whatever, like, the entity has a plan. Ethan gets in the box. The entity is like, okay, this guy is unlike any other person I've ever encountered on the internet. He goes, all right, let's play along with this guy's idea of what's going to happen. Here's my plan, Ethan. What do you do here? And he plays along with it. And so that every time Ethan hits a point where he should be dead, you know, he turns himself into the U.S. government. Logically, the U.S. government would say, no, you can't have an aircraft carrier. Fuck you. Go to jail. But the entity goes, we'll let that one go. Maybe it happens in reality, okay? So, because I'm exploring all the possibilities. So maybe that happens in reality. If it did happen, what would happen then? You'd go to the aircraft carrier and you'd what? Get on a submarine? Okay, the submarine stops you. Russians are there. What do you do when the Russians are there? He comes up with a way to get through it. He goes down into the Sevastopol. He gets the Sevastopol drive. He's trying to get up, but it doesn't make any sense that he could ever possibly survive because it's insane. And he's naked in Arctic waters with the bends, trapped under ice. And the entity goes, all right, fine. Let's say you got through that one, okay? Grace picks you up, all right? You don't blow up any of the nukes. Grace is there. She lets you in. Grace then is oddly familiar and flirty because the entity doesn't know that Grace is Ethan's daughter. So the entity is playing Grace incorrectly, right? Okay, now, where was I? He got out of the water.
He got
out of the water. They fly to South Africa. They go to the Doomsday Vault where the entity knows that eventually they'll have to go if they're playing it out in reality. And he says, okay, here's what Gabriel's doing because Gabriel is predictable, right? Because Gabriel is just a cruel dickhead who plans things well.
Well, I mean, I was led to believe in 7 that he plans things well because he's in league with an AI that's computating all of these things.
That's true. That's
You know
true.
what I
We
mean?
don't actually know anything about
Yeah,
Gabriel.
we don't.
Besides what
that the
his
entity
existence as
erased
the
his
entity.
past, that Ethan met him 30 years ago and potentially framed him for murder, and that he's a dark messiah in like when from whatever information that Ilsa has been able to gather,
right?
And that he's teamed up with the entity.
So now we're in the vault, and we don't get any information about the actual backstory between Gabriel and Ethan, because all that information would also have been erased by the IMF when Ethan got recruited. So the entity, well, I guess the entity would know all of that from interacting with
We said in the last movie, the entity erased all of Gabriel's backstory.
The
but
entity
not from
erased all of
itself.
Gabriel's backstory, not all of Ethan's backstory.
Right.
But you can't hide anything from the entity once you get in the box. So the entity would know all of that. But the entity doesn't give a shit about that, I guess. So we're going into the Doomsday Vault. The entity is like, okay, sure, you got everything. And then by the end, the entity goes, I guess human beings are capable of like decency and perseverance and the
We don't want to
desire
blow
save
everyone up.
others. Maybe my plan to nuke everyone was wrong. Maybe I should get off the internet for a little while. So we don't know. The next movie, though, that they haven't announced yet, Mission Impossible 9, is
Dead
going
Reckoning
to open.
Part 2.
That's right. That's
Mission
right, 'cause
Impossible
this
9,
is
Dead Reckoning
Final
Part 2.
Reckoning, and then the next one is Dead Reckoning Part 2.
Mission Impossible Tom finally reckons he'll make Dead Reckoning Part 2.
Anyway, I think the next movie is
yes.
going to open with like a thumping sound on a black screen, and then there's going to be a breaking noise, and the box is going to open, and they're going to pull Tom out of the box, and Tom is going to be like, "Is this real? Is this real?"
Is this real?
And then they're going to be like, "What are you talking about? Of course it's real."
You're real. You're real.
But that'll be exactly the same thing that the entity had them say when they pulled him out of the
Yeah,
box.
so we'll
in the
never know
simulation.
if we're out of the hole.
That's right.
We'll never know if you're out of the scary hole.
Who knows?
Yeah.
Except that the entity won't be evil then, I guess. So then I guess they don't need a new one. We can just headcanon it that this movie had the entity realize that there was decency and decided to stop being evil. And then gave Ethan Hunt the ending that Ethan Hunt wanted, which was to continue to be alive and being a savior of mankind forever after having won.
All right,
But
we're
he's in
going to
the
go
box.
to the phones one last time. Hopefully it's Tom. We're
Let's go, Tom.
excited about barbecue.
That's right, barbecue.
Hi, calling in from Tulsa.
Oh,
Howdy,
my
Tulsa.
God. I mean, it's good to
another
hear
not
your
Tom.
voice
John, you
again.
can't just say that a movie can't just not do something and you say that it does something and then it's good. Like
I'm pretty sure I can. I'm pretty sure I just did.
the entity being taught through the power of love from Tom Cruise that humanity is worth saving and then being good in the end would have been a very cool ending. You can't just say that. You can't
That's
just
actually
watch,
what happens.
You can't just
Yeah.
watch a movie where that does not happen at all and be like, actually, the movie is good because this thing that did not happen happens because I say so.
Okay, there's a moment in the briefing scene where one of the guys is like, "Oh, the entity is just a robot. It just thinks like a robot, and its plan is to go into the Doomsday Vault and nuke everything."
Because it's a machine. It's thinking like a machine.
And Ethan goes, "It behaves, it thinks the way that we taught it to think because it learned how to exist by learning from the way that we interact with things."
Thinking is
Its thinking is
binary.
dictated by what it's learned from us.
Yes.
Which means that it makes sense that the entity is a evil, destructive, doomsday, death wish psycho, because the internet, when it's super boiled down, is a unhealthy place for a consciousness to develop. And this consciousness only exists on the internet, and was developed as a military-industrial complex tool of destruction and
I see
sabotage.
the through line, and yeah, and if
Right.
he went out and touched grass and met Tom Cruise and got to spend and get delicious barbecue with Tom Cruise, he wouldn't be evil anymore.
That's right.
That just does not happen in the film. I'm just telling you, that does not happen at all in the film.
But you know what? No one in Mission Impossible 2 ever goes, Ambrose is Ethan's brother, but I still think that's true.
That's true, and that affects some people's ratings.
But you know what? You can watch a movie
I think
and
there's a
interpret it as
difference.
however you want.
I think to our caller's credit, I think there is a difference between like reading familial relations into two characters that are set up to be like reflections of each other,
and then just being like, I watched an entirely different film.
writing a different ending than what we saw happen on screen. Because I mean, I get on the one hand, we do see the president decide not to blow up the world. That was nice.
Mhm.
That was nice to know that the president didn't want to blow up the world. And I do think, you know, we could have had a movie where the entity learned that, oh, humans won't actually blow up the world. I didn't want to blow up the world either. You know, I was just goofing.
Mhm.
I'm like, you know.
Yeah, but you know what? They also have to make a movie that gets past.
He's like 13 now.
Producers
13 years
and
old.
the company, right? So I'm saying you gotta write a movie that executives who don't watch movies and don't think about shit will be like, oh yeah, there were action scenes and shooting and jokes and Tom Cruise ran a lot. Right? That's what you got to put in to get.
We've also this is the same team that made 5, 6, and 7. Which
yeah, but they didn't have. The
I think
oversight.
even the caller agrees is good.
Yeah, but they didn't have the production company oversight staring down over their shoulder in the same way, because 5, 6, and 7 all came after successful movies, whereas Dead Reckoning was not a success, and so they had to be like
the same. We boycott Oppenheimer.
That's right. We can go back to that one
because I do. Yeah. So
What's
I guess
my other headcanon. My other headcanon is that
Grace is Ethan's daughter. That was changed because it made it like felt pretty well set up in, you know, Dead Reckoning Part 1. This is going to be the thing we pay off.
Mhm.
And then in this one, it was just, nope, we're not doing Ethan backstory outside of Gabriel happens to have known him. And we're not doing anything with the fact that the girl we kept flashing back to looks a lot like Haley Atwell, but different, and was named Marie. So justice for Marie.
Also, there's another element that is very subtle in the Final Reckoning that supports my headcanon. Every time we go back to Tom Cruise, every time we cut back to Ethan Hunt from whatever everybody else is doing, he always has these moments where he's like confused about why he's there. He's always like waking up from a dream, or shows up, like there's a shot where he's flying towards the aircraft carrier and it cuts from him sitting in the back of the transport helicopter that's taking him away from the base.
Yeah.
And then it cuts to him being in the passenger seat of a helicopter flying towards the aircraft carrier with a helmet on. And he's like, oh, where am I? He's got this like confused look. And it's because the simulation just times jumps to get through the part that the entity didn't want to bother.
I mean, I could see that, but it also like the other part of this movie that is dumb and bad is what happens before he gets in the box. Like I want a lot of that addressed as well. You know what I mean? So
what happens before he gets in the box? He has a conversation with Benji and Luther about what the poison pill is.
Yeah, he gets captured. Yeah, at the thing. He is, you know, like overly violent and then sort of cavalier about his violence with Grace. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So
that wasn't that big of a deal for me. Ethan Hunt kills people plenty.
He does, but he doesn't like leave a knife sticking in their chest and then just sort of like, you know, like
only because the other movies are PG-13 and this one's PG-13. That's why they cut that out. I mean, it's not like his violence isn't violent.
0 body count. Favors misdirection over confrontation. He'll undoubtedly engage in some aerobatic insanity before he'll risk harming a hair on a security guard's head.
You use a scalpel. I prefer a hammer.
No, yeah, for sure. Like, yeah, absolutely. Like, I mean, I watched him throw a hook into Henry Cavill's head. I'm just saying the way this whole thing was played out, like, didn't feel like a Mission Impossible movie. Didn't feel like Ethan Hunt style of thing. Felt like, you know, so. And then there was something else before, but we missed it in this go around. It took a while to get food. Oh, yeah. I do want to circle back to that. So now that we've seen 8 movies, John, what is your ranking of the Mission Impossible films?
You do yours, I'll think about mine.
Okay. All right. The hostile guest back again, throwing it back to the host. Not doing anything. So
not doing anything. I just laid out an incredibly deep headcanon. My other headcanon alteration, by the way, that I don't think is as true.
What is it?
Ethan Hunt died at the end of Mission Impossible 3.
Yeah.
He got electrocuted to try and shut down the explosive in his head. Julia wasn't able to bring him back to life. All of the rest of this is just a hallucination happening in his head because he's dying and losing oxygen.
Yeah, and that's why it gets worse at the very end because his brain's running out of oxygen.
That's right.
It's crazy.
But you can give your rankings now while I think of mine.
6 is still the best. It's the best Mission Impossible movie that has been made. It's incredible. I love it so much. 5 and 1 are tied. So, I mean, if you put 5 above 6, I don't necessarily disagree. I just have more fun watching Fallout. I love that movie to death. 7 is up there in that 1-5 nebulous thing. It might be a little bit lower now because some of the things we were excited to get paid off just get dropped and ignored. And then I don't know. I like 2 and 3 are kind of like tied for me for different reasons. And then maybe 4 and 8. 8 could move around. Like a lot of the stunts are really cool. But I feel like, once I'm able to watch Dead Reckoning Part 1 again and sort of like try to put more of the pieces together in my mind, could move up some. But my ultimate feeling is like, kind of a disappointment. Unsure why it ended up the way that it did. But I mean, I still think it's worth watching. It's not by no means like a bad movie that I regret seeing by any means, but it just wasn't as exciting, wasn't what I hoped for, and I don't think was the original in intention. All right, are you ready, or should we see if a random caller's thought about this more than you?
I'm ready, but we can do a random caller
cool.
first if we want.
Yeah.
We want to do a random caller.
We want to go to the phones, see if we can get with Tom.
Hi, calling in from Tulsa.
Hey, welcome. Welcome back.
That would have been a great time for Tom to come in to give his personal rankings of the Mission Impossible movies.
His favorite one is Night and Day.
Order. Yeah, he just I agree with a lot of what you said, Alex. It kind of does summary view. What say you, folia do, as some would say.
Yes,
I
a
think
classic.
that this movie is a kind of a mess. I think that they clearly changed so much after the failure of Dead Reckoning Part 1 at the box office that there's a lot of great stuff in this movie. I mean, the character development from the whole series is okay, despite dropping some stuff for Gabriel and whatnot. Pom Ketamine's great in the movie. The biplane stunts are great. There's a lot of good. The submarine stuff is great. I mean, Tom Cruise is bringing it, but all of it kind of is wrapped in a script that's just clearly been messed around and doesn't feel like it's had as much time.
Frankenstein.
Frankenstein situation. It feels like The Rise of Skywalker a little bit. It feels like a Justice League, which is not what I want to feel coming out of a Mission Impossible movie. Real quickly, if I were to do my rankings, I would have number 1, Mission Impossible 3 at the top. This has changed a little bit since. I've never been on the show before.
I could tell you're a big fan of the host, though.
Yeah, exactly. So, number 1 is Mission Impossible 3. Number 2, Mission Impossible Fallout is actually what I got. Thinking about it all, how much of a cohesive film it is. Mission Impossible Rogue Nation is number 3 right now.
Nice.
Mission Impossible 1 is ranked at number 4. Dead Reckoning Part 2 is ranked at number 5. Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol is ranked at number 6. I have Mission Impossible 2 at number 7. And coming in at the bottom, I have Mission Impossible The Final Reckoning.
Dang.
For the reasons I said
Powerful.
earlier.
Right.
It's I mean, these are all very good movies. I'm going to enjoy watching this over something like Thunderbolts, let's say. But,
he says not having seen Thunderbolts.
I've seen Thunderbolts.
Have you?
Please wait while the guest is talking.
It's a better movie than most. It's no Killers of the Flower Moon, but these are all very good movies. But
do you think part of the problem of this movie was its transportation PA?
The transportation department was not bringing it in
sort
the
of
way
lost
that the
its direction at times. Yeah,
exactly. And if they would have had maybe some title cards, they could have gotten to 3.5 hours, which is the ideal runtime.
Could have helped orient it.
Yeah, could have been better.
There was just nobody driving the movie.
This is good
forward.
insights. I think caller. I'm not sure what you do, but you might think about hosting your own.
Yeah, I didn't go to
review
film
show.
school. I went to.
Yeah, went to films. Yeah, classic. All right, so John, bring the heat, bring the thunder.
All right, so the best one is Dead Reckoning. It's the action's great, the character work is great. I like a lot of the stuff that they suggest that they're going to build up to. I like Gabriel in that movie. I like the entity. I like the action scenes. I think I already said that. I don't know. It's just good. The music is sick.
It's Dead Reckoning Part 1 is fantastic. It's a great movie.
Then I think I go from Dead Reckoning to Fallout.
Nice.
Because Fallout is pretty fucking rad.
This real quick. The fact that, 2 years ago, John was putting Fallout below Rogue Nation, and now we've come around. That feels good. All right.
Mhm.
Anyway, back to you.
Then
John.
after Fallout is Rogue Nation. I think Fallout just barely scooched Rogue Nation out a little bit. Henry Cavill's great, the bathroom fight scene, all that stuff. But Rogue Nation has the cafe bit at the end, all that kind of
it's
stuff.
incredible. The opera scene is incredible. But yeah, every time we get him in the box, and I'm just like, I'm ready to watch Fallout.
Mhm.
It's so fun.
After Rogue Nation, I put number 1.
Mm-hmm.
Classic movie, the really great stuff in that whole movie. Then I put number 2 because I love number 2, especially with my headcanon.
Oh yeah.
And then number 3 actually is after number 2. I'm sure the caller appreciates that if he's still listening and paying attention. Who knows?
Yeah.
He's
probably Xing about our review.
Oh yeah, probably.
He's leaving a comment about a Dear Sam. Dropping a Dear Sam in the comments.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then after 3, because 3 also moved up because of headcanons.
Mhm.
Like, I don't necessarily think that the way I watch 3 is the way that J.J. Abrams wrote and intended for 3 to be interpreted.
Right.
So that's another one that, like, because I am able to say a movie did a thing without the movie saying it's doing a thing, makes that movie more enjoyable and entertaining for me. So it's like a
the
thing.
only one I wanted to push back on about that today was 8 because we're trying to review it.
I
But
know.
we can make the headcanon work later.
And then after 3, it's 8, actually. I think 8 beats out 4 for me. Even though I
Okay.
like 4, 8, because of my headcanons, is pretty interesting. I think the second time that we watched it, when we watched it this morning,
Mhm.
I was just like staring at the screen, recontextualizing things based on the first viewing and based on ideas that we had while talking about it off screen, off camera.
Mhm.
It's just very dense and interesting. I might change my rankings again if we watch another one, or if a 9th movie comes out.
Right. One for each
Dead
new?
Reckoning Part 2, because this one wasn't actually a sequel to Dead Reckoning Part 1. That's why this one's called The Final
This is
Reckoning.
Lion King 1.5.
That's right.
Yeah. So well, again, thank you for coming on, John. I guess now we're gonna go, try and get barbecue with Tom.
That's
supposed
right,
to meet
we're
him at
meeting
the place,
him.
so we do have to get out of here. But we do appreciate y'all watching. Not sure what's up next on the Film Fan Club. Sam's been more cryptic with the drops ever since I guess we went off the rails a little bit. But we're gonna try to rein it in. We're gonna get it together, and we're gonna have a good time. So feel free to check us out on all the social medias. There'll be links in the description.
Not X, though, because I don't think we have X.
Yeah, but I've been Alex, John's been John, no one's been Sam, and we're going to go meet up with Tom. So thanks for tuning in.
And
We'll see you
Spider's been
later.
Spider. Thanks, Spider.
Thank you, Spider.
I guess he's not coming. It is delicious, though. Wait, who are you?